Hey, fellas.
You're bad at this. You're very bad at this. Just go through the motions. You gotta finish. You gotta finish when we started.
Oh my god. Hey, fellas, I'm Trevor. You guys are watching the Anthony and Todd Show. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can subscribe to us. If you're watching us on Spotify, you can follow us. You can't watch anything on Spotify, so you can listen to us. That would be helpful. If you're listening on Apple Music, you can give us a 5-star rating. And any other way you guys want to show us some love on the internet, follow us on our Twitter, like our Facebook page. Just try to get us out there in the public. We might get ridiculed, but good, publicity is good, even if it's bad. So show us some love. I hope you guys enjoy. Hey everybody, welcome to the Anthony and Todd Show. We're a weekly podcast that critiques and memes music. I'm your host, Trevor, aka Cheetos Summertime Ranch Stars, aka Big Critical Hit, aka I Feel Like a Pusha Ad-Lib Yuck. And I am joined by my ever-attentive co-host, my best friend, my pal, my amigo, Vincent.
AKA Cashmere Outside, aka I saw a shirt that was literally just the cover art to Snoop Dogg's 2017 album, aka Hungry Like Nat Wolf from the Naked Brothers. These are actually okay AKAs this week. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Usually Vincent writes his own, but today, in an effort to save time, I took the extra minute and a half to come up with those. This is episode 41 of the Anthony and Todd Show, an episode we'd like to call I Have a Death Grip on This Bag of Cool Ranch Doritos. This week we're going to be talking about my first reaction to Death Grips, the Money Store. I've never really delved into a Death Grips album before. Vincent loves them. A couple of our fans really like Death Grips, and they all kind of made me try them, especially with the ever-looming release of their latest album, Year of the Snitch, with some of the nastiest album art I have ever laid eyes upon. And so I'm going to kind of be talking about my first reaction to listening to that album. We also have our Dank Pick of the Week, a segment that we had in days of yore, and we finally have brought back for the past couple episodes. And going forward, it just kind of gives us a chance to talk about a track that we have really enjoyed, whether it's modern or old. It gives us a chance to talk about music that didn't come out this year or didn't come out this week. And then we also have our segment, Random Artists You Should Know About, aka just kind of an artist that not a lot of people may know about, or maybe a lot of people do know about them, but they're still kind of underrated, or there's a deeper meaning of why you should listen to this artist. So let's get started in this, baby.
Okay, you ready to get in some Death Grips?
Let's do it.
Okay, Death Grips is a 3-piece hip-hop unit from California consisting of an absolute gene unit consisting of MC Ride, Flatlander, and Zach Hill. And they are one of the fucking nastiest groups out there currently. Not only in their album art with a bunch of glory holes, I think that's what it's supposed to be.
I just took it as a giant plastic piece of cheese, and everybody had their mouths sticking through.
Also, just their music, combining industrial rock with experimental hip hop, or industrial music with experimental hip hop, industrial hip hop, I think is just perfect. They are one of the loudest groups out there, but they're also one of the most, unique in that sense. Their loudness has a purposeness. Their edgeness is more persona than anything else, and I think as a unit, everyone works together really well. MC Ride is very complimented by the beats Flatlander and Zach Hill make for them. And everything just kind of comes together in this weird sense when it probably in the end really shouldn't, because it's just too loud, it's too abrupt, it's too edgy. But MC Ride is a person that gives off that sense of abruptness and edginess, and he's just a jagged individual when it comes through.
Abrasive.
And whether or not MC Ride is a jagged individual in real life has no really effect on the persona of MC Ride and how he comes off. I think he's very consistent and very well spoken for, and at least in his edginess, talking about a multitude of subjects, especially on this album. We're going to be talking about The Money Store, which was essentially their first kind of super knockout record. Ex-Military was the start, but that is more, I would say, a regular hip hop album than anything else. It's not a normal hip hop album by any means, but I would say it's more contemporary hip hop than anything else. It's more loud hip hop for sure. It's a very loud record, like Death Grips tend to be, but it falls in the vein of more like regular hip hop. Whereas the Money Store was way more industrial, way more experimental, and it is viewed by many to be their best record. Personally, for me, Bottomless Pit and The Powers That Be are my two favorites. The Powers That Be being very, very just out there and hard to grasp, and the Money Store being their like the catchiest record, also one of their loudest records as well. I don't know, I think it kind of took what the Money Store did so well with its catchiness and kind of like took it further, but this is viewed, the Money Store is viewed as like their best record by a lot of people, and that's why I picked this one for you to listen to, because I think it's not as loud in my opinion as Bottomless Pit. It's still very loud, don't get me wrong, but it's more experimental hip hop than I think Bottomless Pit is. So, in your honest reaction, what do you think of the Money Store?
I actually liked it quite a bit more than I thought I would. Everybody always kind of makes a lot of jokes about Death Grips and how they're just really abrasive, but also like, oh, this is hipster music, like,
Yeah.
if you know hip hop, you know Death Grips, but not everybody gets Death Grips, I think. Just listening to a lot of like different albums this year and in the years past, like in the couple years past, so we've really like gotten into critiquing music, listening to it with like a critic's ear. I found myself listening to like a lot of not very easy listens to this year, being JPEG Mafia's Veteran and also MC Paul Barman's Echo Chamber from last week, two of my highest rated albums of this year. And they are, I mean, in all honesty, they're just not easy listens. You have to be a fan of that type of music, and you have to be a fan of like, or not so much a fan, but you have to be open to new ideas in hip hop. And I feel like that's what Death Grips is based off of, is new ideas and kind of expanding the horizon of their listener. And I didn't find it to be as hard of a listen as a lot of people said it was, because I almost think I've been desensitized to like the hard listen of albums.
Yeah, so this is not, let me get in before we get any further, this is not really supposed to be a critique of Death Grips, the Money Store. This is more Trevor's reactions than we wanted to get further or anything, because we can talk. I don't think we need to actually critique this album. But
it's from like, what, 2012? I think just about everything's been said about it right now.
But I think, what is your least favorite moment? Let's start with the least, and let's start with the less positive, getting to the more positive. What did you not like about this record?
Honestly, when things got a little too normal.
See, for me, like, I think Lost Boys and Blackjack, those are my least favorite. Just because Lost Boys is like, if any other artist did it, it would have been like the edgiest song ever, like overly like, oh, we're so cool, like I'm the Lost Boy, something like that. It's something like Princess Nokia would have definitely made like on her last mixtape, just being super emo and edgy. Where in this, I think MC Ride's able to like save it because he's a jagged individual, and Blackjack, I just think it was just
Yeah, okay, I can see that.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with like Lost Boys. I just think that it's maybe when I say like too normal, too basic, I mean in the stance that like the album as a whole is not super intellectually deep.
Yeah.
I mean it's musically complex, I think, in how it makes the listener feel and how it's contrived as a whole, because I think that hip-hop doesn't necessarily always work with a lot of these elements going on, but Death Grips makes it work, and they don't, like, their lyrics I don't think match the complexity of the music, but I guess I can see where some people would say like, oh, it's a give and take, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a give and take, like, oh, you have complexity of music, so the lyrics have to be simple, or your lyrics are really complex, so the like Mount Erie, your lyrics are like very intellectually thoughtful and take you kind of on a journey, but the music itself is very simple. So I can kind of see like the either or perspective, but it doesn't have to be. The lyrics, I think, are fun. They're catchy. Obviously, Get Got or The Fever, I think like the two first tracks on here are catchy as all get out and like easy to remember, gets stuck in your head a lot. The the Fat Boy Slim symbol. Check it out now, the folk soul, brother. I mean, that stuff is catchy as all get out for sure, and the music is super abrasive and just jagged. Like, you keep using that word jagged in the sense of music, jagged in the sense of Yeezus was jagged, jagged like just broken glass going like into your face, very very coming at you fast. This album is very much so like that, but the lyrics just don't match it. They're a little too basic for me.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of like, even though this is not my favorite Death Threats album, and it does have a lot of their like best material on it. You mentioned like tracks like The Fever and Get Got, but I also think I've Seen Footage, Hustle Bones, Double Helix, System Blower, Punk Weight, Bitch Please, Hacker. Like, these are all like fantastic tracks.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Even though this is not my favorite record by any means, this is a fucking fantastic record still. What did you think about System Blower? Have you read anything about it?
No, I went into this completely blind.
Okay. System Blower samples, I believe it's a Toronto, like, monorail, or at least train. That's what the dun dun dun, like the air tunnel noise is.
Oh, yeah?
It also samples Venus and Serena Williams screaming during a tennis match. That's what it is.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
So that just adds to like how ridiculous this is then. Death Grips obviously like has an amazing ability to make things work that shouldn't. Like that, you explaining that to me makes 20 times more sense. Like, I like the track System Blow. I liked all those tracks that you mentioned. I actually didn't like Punk Weight that much, but the rest of these tracks that you mentioned, I really enjoyed. But like, I just can't place the samples sometimes. There are some where like I know the samples right away on like other hip hop records, like a couple on like A$AP Rocky. I knew like the samples on some like Kodak Black songs, you know, but I just don't know like where they get some of this stuff. Like, it's not typical sampling, you know. This is stuff that you'd never like think to. You never even think to like sample that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's just
or interpolate that into your music.
It's more kind of just like, okay, let's see if I can make this work, or kind of playing around with the ideas and seeing what you can end up coming up with. That's what I enjoy about those groups. That's really why I enjoyed the track System Blower. I think lyrically it's not like one of the best tracks, but just the sampling alone and how MC Ride is like presented on that track, I think is amazing. It's just like, I believe it's the Toronto train. It's fucking fantastic. Like, that is just the cool like wind effect that gives off is just amazing. What were your like favorite moments? You mentioned Get God and The Fever, but like
those are like two huge standouts for me. I also think Hacker was like a really cool ending. You know, it's one of the longer tracks on this album, and I think that by making it long and kind of like dragged out a little bit, I think it just made for a really cool ending to such an like abrasive, weird like oddity, I guess.
That was my prediction for what your favorite track would be.
Really?
Because it was just the drums. I think like it's just kind of like that almost marching band style drums. I love
that cadence. Like, if I was ever a rapper, I would definitely like do live drum line cadence style like beats. Those are so cool, I think. And not like in the way that like drill music is used in like Chicago.
Yeah.
I'm talking like full on like Missy Elliott style like drum line. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. One of the things I enjoy about that track is I just like MC Wright's performance on that. How he's like, it's almost like he's talking to you. It's not really like it's very aggressive and angry by still, but it's like he's still like just talking to you.
It feels very like personal.
Yeah, it's almost
like weirdly personal.
It's like, I don't know, I feel like he's still screaming, so maybe he's like across the street from me, but we're still having a private conversation from across the street. He's just telling me he's in my area, that when I come out my shit is gone. Just give me warning.
It's like you're having a garage sale, and if you leave it unattended for 2 seconds, then he'll take everything there.
But yeah, like any final thoughts before you have to say? So you did enjoy it. I'm kind of glad you enjoyed it, because like if you like JPEG Mafia's Veteran, you would like this. This is way more like abrupt and jagged than JPEG Mafia is, but I think it also is way more consistent. If that makes sense, because JPEG Mafia's Veteran was like all over the place, and this is kind of very finely tuned and meshed well together.
Oh yeah, I think this is, compared to JPEG Mafia, I think this is like very, like you said, like very well crafted, fine tuned, laid out really well. Like Death Grips took like a lot of time and effort into making this like what it is, and making sure that the layout is important. Which, remember, layout's important, fellas. But JPEG Mafia, I think, was like a lot more melodic.
Yeah.
Which is something that I really enjoy in hip hop, like having just kind of that melodic line. I love when like rappers sing, especially when they're decent. You know. But JPEG Mafia's was like a lot more melodic and sampled like a lot of songs, you know?
Yeah.
As well as like
Just random shit.
Just some weird thing. Like the
ODB
ODB sample, but
Unreal.
it's like not his actual song. It's literally just like him opening his mouth in slow motion and then screaming. But like it made its own melodic line.
Yeah.
Whereas Death Grips, there aren't really a lot of melodic lines. There's not like a whole lot of musicality to it in terms of melodies and harmonies and things, but this is more based off of like the cadences of speech and the drums and drum loops and sample based rhythm that they could come up with, which I mean is just a matter of stylistic choice. Not always my first choice, but I did end up really enjoying a lot of what they were doing as far as drumming samples went.
Do you think MC Ride would still be well known even if he did not have the backing of Zach Hill and Flatlander?
No.
Okay, because that's how I feel. I feel like this complements him, and if he did not have this production, because I think
they're a team. I mean,
yeah,
Death Grips is a team, and I think that if they like added anybody or took out anybody, they just wouldn't be the same.
Yeah. See, Zach Hill and Flatlander have like another like group called the ILYs. I think they're I Love Yous. I'm not entirely sure what that stands for.
Elite.
But like Elise. But it's like weird, almost kind of like psychedelic rock from what I've been able to listen to, and it's just not as. It's kind of like Death Grips light without MC Ride. So, like, I think it's Zach Hill who sings and gives off vocal performances on it. I could be wrong about that, but it's just not as... I think some of the production's able to suit itself, but, like, it's not as, like, abrupt or jagged. And I think that's what makes it bad. It's not, like, just because it's something else, it's bad. It's just because it wants to still be Death Grips, but it isn't. It's kind of more like psychedelic or just very strange rock.
It's just their state of mind.
Yeah.
No, I think that MC Ride would be like way too abrasive for like the modern listener.
Yeah.
Or not the modern listener, but the, I guess, everyday listener, because I think the modern listener as a whole is more attuned to this kind of thing and is like more open to experimental things. But yeah, I feel like he would just kind of be like a lost dog almost, like wouldn't know where to go. I don't think MC Ride would fit into the like typical like trap scene. I don't think he would fit into conscious rap or art rap very well. I mean, just like look at what happened to Kanye on Yeezus.
Yeah.
He dipped his toes in the industrial scene, kind of tried to make some more like jagged or industrial music, and things didn't always like turn out for him. A lot of lists I see place Yeezus like way at the bottom, and you know who's got Yeezus at the top of their lists? Fans of Death Grips.
Yeah.
I feel like they opened the door for like a lot of stuff like that. But if MC Ride wasn't in Death Grips, or if Death Grips didn't exist and MC Ride was out on his own, I don't think he'd fit in very well with like really anyone or anything. Actually, the only place I could see MC Ride would perhaps be like Flatbush.
Zombies, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Michi Darko. Actually, no, Zombie Juice looks like MC Ride's
he
like
does.
dad.
It'd be the father and son act we've been waiting for.
I don't understand why Zombie Juice sounds like the youngest SoundCloud rapper. Not to say like his performances are bad, but he sounds like the youngest SoundCloud
His
rapper.
voice sounds young. His performances sound fine too.
It's just like he looks super old, but like Michi Darko is like the complete opposite. He sounds like the grimiest motherfucker, and then you look at him and he's like, oh, who put this baby here?
He's 12. Who left this baby?
Coming from a guy who looks like he's 12, but yeah. So yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed this. I'm glad you had fun with this record. I had fun revisiting it. I think I never really gave this album credit in like a historical stance for how much people viewed it, but like re-listening to it again, I realized how many moments on this I actually really love, and how much I do love a lot of the production on it, and how MC Ride just fits over it so well. I'm excited for Year the Snitch, even though I feel like that's kind of going to be like a mixed bag, because a lot of the singles that have been coming out have kind of been like, they haven't done enough for me, at least idea-wise. I think it's just more of the same, which is kind of sad. But yeah, I hope you take more of my recommendations in the future, so.
Maybe I will. We'll just have to see.
Well, I just force you to, usually. This is the one time where I did it. This time I was like, hey, do you want to do the segment? You're like, okay.
I mean, I've always like wanted to get into Death Grips, but I've never have, because I just felt like I didn't know like the entry point, and also they're kind of like intimidating, you know.
Yeah,
I think Death Grips is very intimidating, especially with just kind of the I don't know, like just kind of the stigma around them, or like the air around the band and its fans. It just makes it seem like it's an unbreachable ship. Everybody seems like so tight-knit in the Death Grips community. Everybody seems like they hold Death Grips up on like a podium, when like in reality, whether they should be or not is up to the listener or whatever. But to the point where like it just seemed like you couldn't talk to anybody about Death Grips, and if you didn't love it, or like absolutely would devote your life to the First Church of Death Grips, then like you weren't in the club. You couldn't be a fan. If you don't absolutely adore the band and everything that they do, then you can't love them.
Yeah.
Or you can't like them. I don't know. That's just how I felt. But like now, actually like going into it, and like I can't say this is one of my favorite albums of all time, because I do think that there's like, as I talked about a little bit, there's like some things that I wasn't 100% like sold on already, but I am like still excited to see like where they going from here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And like to listen to some of their past catalog in preparation for Year of the Snitch. Yeah. Like I'm ready for that.
Into the dank pick of the week.
Let's do this.
Real trap shit. I should be that guy. The real trap shit guy. That should be me.
I don't like him.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
We're beefing. Him and I, Aquim and I, we're beefing.
Okay, so Dank Pick of the Week is a weekly segment where we just pick a random track, sometimes recent, sometimes very not recent, and we just talk about it. It gives us the opportunity to talk about just, random tracks that we love. This week, Trevor got to pick. Last week, I picked. But this week is Trevor's week, so I'm going to let Trevor take it away.
All right, so I was really on the fence with this one. There's a couple of tracks that are near and dear to my heart that I wanted to talk about. But then there was also just kind of talk about a little bit. This fan harassed the band Weezer so much on Twitter to make a cover of Africa by Toto for like months and months, and finally, like 2 days ago, they released it. Actually, it might have been yesterday.
No, did you see like the Rosanna?
Yeah. I like
they
the
trolled
song
them with
Rosanna.
that. That's great.
I mean, I genuinely enjoy both of those covers.
Actually, I don't. I think they're not. Neither of them are like bad by any means, but I think it's just like I like my covers to be like part of the band, if that makes sense. Like I want the act to put something into the cover. I just don't want like a cover of it. And I think both of those tracks did not do that for me. But neither of them bad. They're like solid covers when you're looking at them as like replicating the music. But I think
the Rosanna cover had like some soul into it.
It's way more. I think it
had some
way more
soul.
than the Africa.
I think Africa is a tough thing to cover.
And Weezer's are not
absolutely like ridiculous vocal wise. I think that's really high up there. It's hard to get the instrumentation right, and it's such a beloved song that like covering it is almost like a sacred thing. You have to have like a certain blessing. I think Weezer's been around long enough to have that blessing, but still the choice to cover that, I think for fan service it was absolutely brilliant. I think it was so funny that this guy like harassed him enough, and that his tweet made it into the album cover of that cover, I guess, or that single. And I still think they did a good job of it, but like Africa's a hard thing to cover.
Yeah, and
Rosanna I actually really like.
River's not that good of a vocalist to cover it, and not to say he's terrible, because
No.
he's on the Yachty version stock spectrum, which is a preview of events we'll talk about in 2 weeks. But I'm really excited when we cover that. But he's on the spectrum somewhere. But he's passionate, but he's not super talented.
Yeah, he's kind of nerdy.
Yeah.
But I guess enough about Weezer.
Because that's not the Dank
That's
pick
not
of the
my
week.
Dank
We just
pick.
had to
Still
talk
check
about
them out though. Like that surprised me so much, so I just wanted to add that in. My Dank pick of the week is Bad Bad Not Good's Cashmere. Bad Bad Not Good, obviously instrumental electronic jazz group from Toronto. So these Canadians.
Speaking about covers, they started their whole entire thing at the beginning was that they did covers of hip hop tracks. I remember the Nas Who World into this, Kanye's Flashing Lights, a bunch of Tyler Creator songs. They covered Earl's Sweatshirt's Earl, so a bunch of hip hop tracks. And that's how they really got their name out there. Then they started working with artists like Tyler Creator, Ghostface Killah. They did a collaboration album with him a couple years ago. That was okay. But yeah.
But yeah, this track Cashmere comes from their 2016 album 4, or IV if you're in hospital speak. 4 was actually one of my top 2 or 3 albums of 2016. I absolutely adore that album.
We both love that record. That record, in my opinion, it is a very, very solid electronic kind of jazz album. I think it, in some people's opinions, when Bad Bad Not Good started releasing albums full of unoriginal or original material, that's when they kind of took a dive, at least quality wise, for them. But for me, I think 4 is with 3 I can kind of see that, but with 4 it's it's fantastic. I think I like it more than 1 and 2 because there's just so many fantastic moments on it. But one of the best moments, Cashmere, which is just this very lavish and beautiful track that it's hard for me to find words to explain it.
It feels like it's closing track off of 4. So starting out, beautiful closer, absolutely fantastic ending to a really amazing album. But Cashmere sounds like you're walking into a casino, almost like an ancient Greek themed casino, wearing your finest robes and pockets full of change ready to use on these slot machines. You're rich. You are living a good life. People are serving you peacock tongues wrapped in bacon on silver platters as you walk through a casino. There are fountains shooting out of the Greek gods' sculptures' mouths on the sides of the walls. And it's just beautiful. It reminds me so much of almost going to an oasis inside of a casino. It kind of sounds like elevator music a little bit, just beautiful piano work, as well as having this infectious saxophone melody, the over top of all the piano work. It just makes for an amazingly infectious track. I cannot describe it in any other way besides we are making lounge music cool and lavish again, almost like the Cashmere that this song is named after. Not to mention Flocky Oxcore, I talked about this last year, did a remix of Cashmere where he delivered some kind of spoken word poetry over top of it with an amazing music video to boot. Just boosted this song even farther for me.
Speaking of, you talked about some of the saxophone. This reason why 4 is so important, kind of Bad Bad Not Good's kind of history as a group. It was the first album where Leland Whitty was actually a full-time member playing the saxophone, which I thought was really cool, and a multitude of other instruments. But that was his first notable member, because before then he was always a feature. He was never really a full-time member, and then they kind of inducted him to the group, which I thought was really cool. But yeah, I love Cashmere. I think it's beautiful. I don't know. It's just great. I think, I don't know, it gives me the feel, when I listen to it, I imagine touching velvet. That's kind of what it gets through my head.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's just a very grand track. And I think Flocky Oscord, you talked about the remix of it, BMB, Bad Bad Not Good / or X Flocky Oscord, the remix, if you can find it on YouTube, is just beautiful. Like his very distinctive spoken word actually, like, I feel like you can't have a regular artist over this beat. It has to be something like strange and out there, and Flocky Oxford with his unique spoken word
Absolutely.
like fit perfectly. So
this track just flows so beautifully, like fountains of cashmere or velvet flowing out into a large pool.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely amazing. If you haven't listened to 4, if you haven't listened to Bad Bad Not Good, I'm sure you have. If you're not aware that you're listening to Bad Bad Not Good, you need to check these guys out. If you're a fan of hip-hop music, if you're a fan of jazz music, if you're a fan of experimental or electronic music, I think that you'll find something here for everybody. Even if you're a fan of like classical music, I think that anybody will find something to really enjoy in 4 or really in any of the like past works as well.
Yeah. Speaking of Bad Bad Not Good, I think they're actually kind of due for another album sometime in the near future. It's been a couple years, so
I'm ready.
you ready to get into the random artists you should know about?
Let's do it.
Well, I picked the random artists you should know about this week. This is a weekly segment where we just talk about random artists and that we think you should know, and we just tell them why we think they're great. This week, I picked something a little bit weird, something a little bit kind of stupid. But I picked Jakey. Jakey is a YouTuber from South Dakota who makes videos on like video games and like video game culture and a multitude of other things. He talks about like love and relationships and bunch of that, but he has a unique kind of goofy, kind of cheesy persona that you end up kind of like falling in love with. And I'm not here to talk about his YouTube videos because he also makes music, and that's what I'm really here to talk about since we are a music podcast. But Jakey, he, as I mentioned before, very cheesy, very goofy, very lighthearted, but also very wholesome in his own, if that makes sense. Just because he is goofy and just kind of dicking around with everything, you don't take him less seriously because he seems genuine to him. It doesn't seem like kind of like a throwaway. And I think with his music, which he started releasing last year, at least notably last year, with tracks such as South Dakota and Saint Like was one of my favorite songs of last year just because it was so goofy, so cheesy, so catchy. He reminds me a lot of, like, if you like artists like Post Malone, who are this kind of like very poppy, very goofy, like pop rap, or if you like artists like Joji with a very like moany, kind of spacey hip hop. And I think Jakey's kind of somewhere in the middle where at times he can be in this kind of like spacey hip hop space, but at very times be also in this very like goofy, very playful space. Best example, Saint Like, I think is just a fantastic catchy track where you see all the personality behind Jakey. One of my favorite lines, Friday night, what you gonna do? Solo Halo 2. Sacrifice, no more Xbox Live in the room. It's so goofy, but at the same time, it's so playful and so easy to sing along with. His vocals are definitely on the Yachty Rosenstock spectrum. Again, another preview to what we're gonna be talking about in a couple of weeks. But they're very passionate. He doesn't take himself seriously. Like, comparing him to Joji, which who we reviewed his last EP, his first EP last year, in Tongues. One of my main problems with that is because he like, the instrumentals were very spacey and like atmospheric, but at the same time his vocals didn't match that because they were moany, but they weren't, like, they had no feeling behind them when he was talking about these tough subjects or these sad subjects. Whereas Jakey, his vocals are very passionate on times like Saint Like. They're very goofy. They are so stupid, and anyone can sing along with them. They're not good, but they are funny and just fantastic because they are so passionate. He puts so much heart into his performance, and I think his passion and his like charisma and his cheesiness kind of make this unique artist that I think should be dominating this kind of like pop rap space that's like occupied by artists like Post Malone. If you like Post Malone, you will love Jakey because I think he's doing kind of the same thing that Post Malone's kind of just now getting into, kind of finding his own like charisma and his own like unique style.
Yeah.
And I think Jakey's kind of just slowly getting at it. Not all of his tracks are like super good. I keep on mentioning Sing Like because I think that's a fantastic single. They do have some of the flaws. Like, if you do not like cheesiness, you will not like him as an artist. But if you're able to have fun, if you're able to enjoy the tongue and cheekness, if you like artists like Post Malone, Joji, and I would even say Lil Yachty, because Lil Yachty's on that.
It's pretty corny sometimes.
Corny, he's very corny, definitely goofy, and definitely very passionate vocally. But yeah, I think he's an artist that you should really pay attention to, because I think he's going to do big things in the future. I think his YouTube channel, even though he has only like 200,000 subscribers, I think he's going to be huge in the music world sometime soon. Because he is making a lot of music that I think people will actually really enjoy, because it is so poppy and so cheesy. And not to say he's like appealing just to a common audience, but I think he's making pop music that is so much fun and so invigorating, and I want to sing along with it, that he's doing his job of like, it's pop music expertly crafted.
Yeah.
And I don't think I can say anything more about it. I think he's a fantastic artist. And if you're not even talking about his music, I think his YouTube channel, super funny, super charismatic. It takes all the parts I like about his music and applies it to his YouTube. He's a well-rounded individual. He provides the same kind of persona he does in his YouTube videos as he does in the music. Whereas Joji was not Filthy Frank.
No.
If that makes sense.
Completely different person.
But yeah. I think he's fantastic. Definitely check him out. We will have links to, if you're watching on YouTube, we will have links to Bad But Not Good's Cashmere and Jakey's Saint Like in the YouTube description if you want to check those two tracks out. But until next time, guys, this has been episode 41 of the Anthony and Todd Show, an episode we would like to call...
I have a death grip on this bag of Cool Ranch Doritos.
Until next time, guys, make sure you like us on Facebook, give us a rating on Apple Podcasts, subscribe to us on YouTube, and if you like our theme song and our outro song, it's by our big friend. I don't know who it is. He's just a big friend. Our intro song's called Galaxy. Our outro song's called Rock Salt Lamp. Links to the songs are in the description if you're watching on YouTube. This has been episode 41. Oh, I already did that bit. I did it out of order this time. I'm very sorry about that. But until next time, guys. See ya, boys.
Bye, everybody.